This conference will now be recorded.
The password, I'll be saving it somewhere. You can download remote desktop so that you need not to type the user ID and other details. Just connect. Once prompted, paste the password. Okay, so this is your AD server, and if you go here, there is an option like server manager. Under server manager, go to the tools. Okay, so normally we just created add using is add roles option. You can see AD domain service is there, and go to the Active Directory. Sorry, active not Active Directory. Users and computers. So where you can see your domain, and under that you can see a lot of users and security group created. So you can see guest user, and I have my user ID. Just click here, you will get that user ID and all. If you just go to the account, you can see this is the user ID, and unlock account. If it's already locked, then you have to do this unlock option to unlock, and password expire. A lot of things you can make changes. So this is what AD admin use, and AD admin will give some details, and so that you would be able to integrate uh, Active Directory with the Linux box, and also you can use this AD as user authentication for your Hadoop services. So now what we are going to do here is, see, we have the Linux, and we need a centralized authentication mechanism. That means whatever the user we create in AD only, that users will be should be available across all the cluster nodes. So this is the documentation I just followed, and I use this option to do the AD Linux integration. So RHEL7 or centralized with Linux, Windows AD. So as a first step, so you need to have a few packages installed on the Linux machine. So SSSD, so that is a service, I think a system service domain or something, SSSD. So that is used for system security service daemon. So this is used for integrating AD with the Linux, Ream or Job. So these are the packages you need to install on the Linux boxes. But if you are working in an enterprise, definitely Unix team will take care of this activity, AD Linux integration. So you won't be able to make these commands. But if in case of a small organization, or you are doing testing yourself, you may need to do this AD Linux integration. So basically you need to install these packages or job and all. Okay, so whenever the user log in the first time, so it create its home directory default. Samba is for file sharing, KRB5 workstation, that is for Kerberos authentication. So these packages we are going to install on this Linux machine. So this is the one-time activity. So once prompted, hit yes, so that it will install those packages and whatever the dependent packages. So some packages need to be updated and some packages need to be installed. So that is done. So once that is done, so we need to make sure like our AD server is accessible, whatever the AD server that we are using. So in our case, our AD server is this one, and we will check it's a private IP address or private host name, and that should be uh, able to ping from this one. If you just use the ping, that is working. But what I'm going to do here is, we'll just update that it in etc host. Okay, and write that name. So what is the host name we normally use here is, let's go to the command prompt and type host name. So AD-server. We will use the same name here, AD-server dot hadoop.com. And but if you have DNS in place, you need not to update in etc host manually. So always there will be in DNS entry. So now we can just use AD server so that we should be able to ping to this one machine. Ping AD-server. So I'm able to ping. The next thing, okay. So resolve.conf, we will skip this. So because we are not checking this one, because since we already have it in etc host. Now use this option to join. Okay, so ream that is a command that we use to join to the AD. Ream join, then hyphen user. So what is the user we are going to integrate? So we need an admin user. Okay, if you already have an administrator user, no, so that is fine. Otherwise, we need to create a new user and give him delegate the access to that user. Since we are already having the administrator, and we know it's a password. So this is the password for that, and we will use that administrator. And AD-server dot, okay, just hit enter, and this is asking for administrator password. Just type this, copy this password, enter. So that's it. So just use ream list. It should show that AD detail. Okay, so this is saying hadoop.com, it's connected, and all this information you can get from the login format is this one. So that means if you have a user here, sorry, uh, okay, I have a user here, right? See, my account ID is this ID at hadoop.com. If I just use ID at hadoop.com, see, ID command is normally, okay, will list the user ID and its group ID and other information. Okay, see, normally if you want to check any user details, you use ID command. So ID, user ID, whatever the user ID. But here, if I just use this option, it won't work, because then that is the next step. So we need to change that login format and all. Okay, so just understand the things we tried here. First thing, we did installation of few packages. Okay, so let me just note it down somewhere so that I can send to you. Okay, so first step, you just need to install some packages on the Linux machine, and second step, just update and add AD server details, and the third step is use this ream join command. Okay, so this is your AD server, and this is the username. If you don't know the administrator, if you have some other admin user, you can use that. Once prompted, type this admin user password, and ream list, it will just list the AD domain details if connected. Sometimes, mostly you may get some error, so I don't remember, some default error you may get using during this step. If you facing that challenge, just reboot and execute this same step. So I have seen like couple of times. So when I execute this one, I was getting some error message. I don't remember exactly that error message. So the most common error is like we may miss this admin user credential, maybe it's incorrect credential, or if you miss this IP address, or this is incorrect. And the second possibility is the firewall. So other than that, there won't be any issue if you install these packages properly. So the firewall is important. If the firewall is blocking, definitely this won't work. Okay, once that is done, okay, so now only the challenge is okay, and another thing, you should be able to log into that user. Let me just I think this won't work. So I don't want that key here. Then I can try with the, whatever the administrator, or I can try with my ID. Okay. So why we are getting this message here? We disabled the password based authentication, uh, so that we can enable it. Okay. Uh, so what we can do is we can just enable that, and so that I should be able to log in with this one. Otherwise, I should be able to uh, switch to this user. Okay, from here I can su hyphen, then try this user. Once prompted, type the password. Right, you can see I was able to log in here. So if I just use who am I, so this is the user, and I have got my home directory created. Okay, if you just check here, my home directory is this one, right? But the problem is here is, so the name we just need a name in this till here, so we don't need that this format, so that we can edit. Okay, go to the configuration file etc sssd, then sssd.conf, and here somewhere we have that option. Just to go through that, so cache credential id provider, then yeah, uh, mm, I think, yeah, here itself. Use fully qualified names. So we will make this as false. And also the ID, I don't need the domain name created. I mean the username and then followed by domain name. So I just need the username alone as a home directory. So is this clear? So use a fully qualified name. I made it to false. Initially it was true. The fully qualified name is something like that name you can see here, like username at domain name. So I don't need that. So I don't need the fully qualified name. I need this one. So that is why I made this to false. And fallback home directory, so that is the home directory you want to create, just username. So in case in case if this is my id, so this is my username, I need that. That's it. Then save it. So after saving this, okay, so this is the file we just edited. Okay, just you can see, edit, and what are the changes we made. uh, okay, so these changes we made. Okay, so these changes we made. Then we need to restart SSSD service. So what you can do is, systemctl restart /d. Now I restarted /d service. Then if I just try id, this one, this is working now. But if I just try this one, okay, that is also working. But the reason is this may be in the cache, that is why. Otherwise only it should work. Okay, now I should be able to log in. So I think you may be knowing why when I log in directly, so this is failing. The reason is in SSHD configuration, the password based authentication is disabled. etc sshd_config, and I think there is some yellow password. Yeah, disable text password. Yeah. So this is no. If I just made it to yes and restart SSHD service, I should be able to log in directly. So this is a security option that this AMI has made, so that we are blocking the password based authentication to this machine. But if you enable the password based authentication, definitely uh, there may be attack. Okay, so now let's just try switch to this user, then type the password, whatever the password which I set in AD. Now sorry, I am inside this directory and it's created. But normally, like if you do open a new session, like a session, and sorry, so if you open a new session for this, and if you type this username and password, you should be able to log in. Now if you just see klist, you can see the Kerberos ticket, granting ticket for this user, but this I will explain later. This AD based authentication is working with the help of Kerberos also. Okay, so we have integrated this one, and now if you create a user, okay, say for example HDP admin, I'm going to create a new user HDP admin, that we will see ID. So that user is not there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create that user here, new user, then Hadoop, then last name administrator, then use HDP admin. So the username is hdpadmin@hadoop.com. Then use this user password, finish. Now if I just use hdpadmin here, I can see that user is here. So I should be able to log in with the password which I set here for this user. If I change the password, so that will reflect here also. The same step we are going to repeat for other hosts in our cluster. Okay, so let me just close here and see. So we'll open for master 2. Just switch to root user. So what you need first is just copy this. So this is going to install this much packages. Go ahead and hit enter. Now we'll have to update the etc host. Then we will take that from this first machine, and this is the detail. Save it, and the next step is id join dream join command. Once prompted, copy the password and paste that password. So now ream list, this is listing. Just update etc ssd.conf. Then change is fully qualified name, just change it to false, just use the username. Then systemctl restart ssd. So now if you use id, you can see that id here, and if I just use HTTP admin, that is also available. So we have done this. So now we will quickly follow the same step for other machines also. So we have master 3, worker 1 also, worker 2, then worker 3. Just switch to root user because this require a super user privilege. Then okay, let me just copy this line, master 3, and do the same on worker 1, worker 2, and worker 3. Just hit enter, yes. And next step, we'll have to update etc host. Open etc host, then the same file we will just open on here. Now get that host detail, ad server, and add it here, save it, add here, save it, save it, save it. Then the next is ream join command. Copy this, add it here, then the password is this one. Type the password, okay. So now ream list, and you can verify. So this is working, and edit that SSSD file, etc SSSD, then sssd.conf. So here use fully qualified name, just make it to false, and use this user alone, and systemctl restart, fully qualified name, make it to false, sorry, and this username, systemctl sssd, and here again do the same thing, systemctl okay. Now I used a centralized authentication mechanism using this AID. So basically, I've connected all the Linux boxes with AID, and whenever I create the user or group, that will be visible in my Linux boxes. And also in AD console, if you just hit on the computers, you can see what are the computers which are registered here. See the master 1, master 2, master 3, worker 1, worker 2, worker 3. So these are the machines which are registered, and it's a host name and operating system. All the most of the details you can get from here. So and also users, whatever the users you created under here, and also you can have a different organization unit. So these are called organization unit, and you can create organization units under here. So I'll explain that when we discuss about AD integration with Cloudera manager and Kerberos, etc. Okay. So any questions here? So this is very simple. I just install these packages, then update the host. And here common challenge is if it's not properly updated into AD etc host, or sometimes firewall issue. So that is the reason I just turn off firewall here and from the Linux box also. Otherwise, you need to open the firewall ports which are needed for this particular services like Kerberos and AD services. Then ream join command, and that's it. So you just need sssd.conf file editing. Is it clear?
Yep.
Okay, right. Okay, now so we have let's just open the console, Cloudera Manager. Use this one and use 8080, which is a port this Ambari is using. Just use the credential as admin. Okay, So you can see we have this much services: HDFS, Yarn, MapReduce, Zookeeper, Biometrics, and SmartSense. And you can see what are the hosts available. So now let's try a sample job. Okay, how to run a simple MapReduce job to test the cluster. So let me just switch to root user using the find command /-name star Hadoop star. So there is a file, example jar file. I don't remember the I don't know. Okay, I think so. I think better I can use example star.jar. Yeah. Okay. So I know somewhere we have a Hadoop MapReduce example jar file, so which is used for testing, or which is a jar file and pre-built or written by some of the developers in Apache, and we can use this for testing our job. I mean, some map. This is a simple sample MapReduce job which can be used for testing the cluster. Let's come out and switch to my ID. Okay. So as logged in as my ID. So how to run a job is Hadoop jar, this one. And if you don't know what are the options to use, okay. So till here this is a standard syntax: Hadoop jar, then whatever the jar file. Next is specific to this code. And here you can see aggregate word count, db count, grep, join. A lot of operations are there, and pi is a one. So I prefer to use pi. And word count also, terasort also, different algorithms are written here in this jar. So you can use all those options. If I just use pi alone, see some more options I need to pass along with this. That is why this is saying like what are the options to use. -d means you can just specify some properties like queue name, other MapReduce properties. And the last option is number of maps and samples per number of samples. That is mandatory one, which this particular that is specific to this code and this option. I'm just using 10 mapper and 10 samples per map. Okay, so here the job is failing. Okay, so the job is failing means that you can just read that error message, and it's saying so permission denied. The user can't write /user. So if you see, notice this error. So this means the home directory for this particular user does not exist under /user. And since that is not there, it's trying to write some files inside the home directory. And since this directory itself doesn't exist under /user, this user's directory doesn't exist, and so it's not able to create because I am not the super user. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to create my home directory, then execute this one. Let me duplicate this session. So one option is okay. See, from here, if I just try to create HDFS DFS -mkdir /user, I won't be able to make it. The reason is my user ID doesn't have a right access to under /user because /user is owned by, okay, if I just use /user is owned by HDFS. See, so HDFS is the super user in Hadoop. So one option to create is switch to so that HDFS user. You can switch to HDFS and you should be able to do this command. Okay, that is working. Then if you do with HDFS, so the permission for this directory is for HDFS user, but you need to change the permission and give the permission to this user. That you can, for that you can use HDFS DFS ch on this user, and if you want to change the group membership also, that is also we can just use, and that will change the ownership for this directory. Okay, so for creating the directories under /user, we just switch to HDFS user and executed that command. Now if I run the same code again, see, so this is past this step, and just starting a job. Okay, you can see the job is just started, and it's showing 0 mapper and 0 reducer. That means the job is just started executing. Right. So this is the value we got from this code by using 10 mappers and 10 samples per map. So this you can increase and increase this value, and I think the more you increase, I think the more accurate value you will get at the end. So this way you can test this cluster by running sample map reduce job. I mean, this is the example jar file, so which is available in the which comes along with the distribution. So even if it's a Cloudera, Hortonworks or any distribution, so this will be available. So this is part of Apache project. You got some more accurate value, 3.1.1.140. This is something like, okay. So this way you can just test the cluster and by running a sample MapReduce job. So the way Hadoop jar, and what is the jar file, and what are the options you can use. And next we will see, I don't know what, okay, the smart send service is down. That is not a problem. Next we will see how do we add one more host to this cluster. Okay, so we have, I'm just going to add one more host called a worker 4. So how do we add that worker 4 here? So first thing I need to create a, first it's like a VM for worker 4. Okay, and the second is do all the prerequisites, and which includes AD integration also. Okay, and the second is we have two options, like I said, manually install and configure Ambari and add. So you can use either way. Okay. Okay, so you can add this cluster by installing. One second. Okay, so we are going to do this. So my two options are there. One is the manual installation and configuration of Ambari agent, right? Then we can continue the graphical, and then add roles, whatever the roles we want to do. So these are the steps at very high level we want to do when we are going to add a new host to this cluster. Okay, so we will just start adding the host. Okay, so just launch an instance and make sure you add the host in the same okay, we use the same type of VM. Also use deploy that machine in the same subnet and VNet. We will just take the image ID. So where is the image ID? Yes, AMI ID is this one. Copy that AMI ID, then community AMI, search for that, use that VM, and I don't remember the configuration we used for okay, the configuration we use let me just take the worker to configuration.
Too large.
Okay, yeah, I'll just take the same thing from here. TV to large, then other details, how many instances we need, and mainly make sure you choose the same subnet and VNet. I mean here VPC and subnet. Otherwise, you need to do a lot of configuration, and the main thing is we need the instances to be communicated without any issues. But if you create in another subnet or another VNet, so I think there will be a lot of other configuration in AWS side to enable the communication between this one. So I'm just choosing the default. I think this is enough for me. So I'll be getting a public IP, and it's deploying in the same VNet and subnet that I deployed for other machines. I'm just adding this as 50 and delete on encryption. I mean delete on termination. Encryption I'm not choosing, and the tag I'm not using because I don't have much VMs. So if you need, you can add. Then security group, I will be choosing the same thing we use for other VMs. So it's kind of wide open access. I'm using same for here also. Then launching the instances, and whatever the key you want, I use HTTP admin key because there is an option to choose without key pair, but I don't prefer that. I'm using the key based authentication to log in. Then launch instance. Go to the instance here, and I'll just add a worker for just this is just a display name. Okay, and have to wait until this is online. Just keep refreshing. I think this is initializing. Once this is initialized, I would be able to connect this VM. Just to connect and to get the public IP address, and I'm just adding that detail. Just loading this one, and the name is worker for. So all the SSH and all it's saved already. So I'm just saving as a worker for. So now if you just see here, auth under here, I can see all those details, and come to the main session page. Just open. Maybe it's not initialized so far. We'll have to wait a few minutes. So get it started.
Sajesh,
Yeah.
um, do you think that we should do this addition using any other tool like Ansible or something? Because we did talk about it. I was just thinking that if
Uh,
we can do that.
yeah, Ansible based deployment. I'll show you that. I have the script for deployment using Ansible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the later I'll be using that only for the configuration and deployment later. I'll show you that. Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
That's what I
it's
did.
very
We did talk about
yeah
that.
because yeah maybe the initially I just want you to, I think you already know because we did these steps already in the Cloudera sessions. So we will
Mm-hmm.
do the Ansible based approach. Okay, so I have tested that. I mean the deployment and all using Ansible. Okay, so give me a second. I'll just give me let me take 5 minutes break. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
try. try. Okay, so this is the host. Okay, what we need, so we need to change the host name like the other uh, yeah, so we need to fill all these prerequisites, and here what host name we need to set. Switch to root user. So this is worker4.hadoop.com. So that is the name we set, and the IP address is this one. And for worker4, I think one thing we need to do is just update this host name on all other hosts also, because the new host name that we are using, etc host, and we have to add that host name here, whatever the host name for worker4. So worker4 and 4, and we need to copy all these entries and add it into our new host. Just add it here. Okay, so that is a one step we did, and the next is we need to check if the firewall is there. Then if it's there, just to disable it. I think we don't have the firewall service available here. That is fine. And next we need to change the VM happiness here. Just to open this file, then open this file in some editor, then add the entry for just changing the VM's happiness to 10. So we'll just use VM dot happiness to 10. Save it, and SE Linux we need to disable. Use this option and add it here. Just if you just use this etc selinux.config, you can see. So SE Linux is disabled, and next is we need to install Ntpd service. So that is for time synchronization. I'm just using yum install command to do that, and we need to enable and start the NTP services. What all the prerequisites that we do for other host has to do here also, and enabled. Then what else we need to do? Just start this one. Then this one THP disabling will be doing here. Then what we need to do? Okay, I think that's it about the prerequisites. Then the next is so like I said, there are two options that we can do. One is use Ambari to install Ambari agent, or we can manually install and configure Ambari agent. For that, what we have to do is, anyway, we need that etc yum.repos.d ambari.repo. So this repo you need to create in the host if you are using manual agent installation. This time we will do it a manual agent installation. Just to create the file etc yum.repos.d ambari. Okay, just save it. Then let me install this yum-y install ambari-agent. So I'll show this Ansible based approach, okay, for building and all doing the automation, so that we can build the entire cluster in a very quickly using the Ansible playbook. I'll show you that also. maybe the next we will see that. That's it. And next I need to configure etc Ambari agent, then conf directory Ambari agent.ini. Here I need to add the host name where my Ambari server is running. So this is the host name, I mean the master one where Ambari server is running. Just update that detail here and save it. Now just use Ambari agent start. Now we can just see the details from the log, okay, and check for any error, like if it's not able to connect to Ambari server. In that case, you will get the details from this log. So this is the log you can refer in case if you want to troubleshoot because of any issue. Var log Ambari agent.log. Then what we will do, we will go to this host, okay, and let me. So here under host from the Ambari console, so there is an option host under here, and there is an action add new host option. Click that and write the host name that you are going to add. So the host name is, worker4.hadoop.com. Just write that. So you have two options. One is the pass this SSH key. In that case, you need to have a user and it's a public and private key pair created available. But here we did a manual registration. I mean the manually installed Ambari agent. In that case, we need not to do all these steps. Just add here and register and confirm. But before that, let me just add this detail like etc host detail to all the hosts, because we haven't updated that on the other host. Okay, register and confirm. Sometimes we may get some warning because we have not restarted the machine, that VM happiness and other parameter we set still won't reflect. Maybe we will just wait for that. So here the success is showing, like, so it's able to connect with this Ambari agent which is configured on that host. Okay, I think they are good. Then next. So this step is asking us to do the what are the packages we need on this worker host. We need a data node or node manager or the client. So let me select that. So then I'll go ahead and hit next. Then the configuration group. So configuration group is something like if you have a heterogeneous set of hosts, so you can have a different configuration groups. So since we have only one and only the default is available, I'll show you that in the main page. How do we create a configuration group? So basically, say for example, you have a cluster, and out of which 10 nodes are with identical configuration, another 10 are with a different configuration. So in that case, say for example, the first group may have 10 disk available, second group may have only 5 disk available. So if you use the same set of configuration, definitely it won't work because the next 10 is having different configuration. So in that case, we can have a configuration group created, and one group we can apply, like in Cloudera, it's a I think a template we call. So we can apply that template. Here also we have a configuration group. So since we have only similar hosts available, just use that. Then go ahead and hit deploy button to deploy that. So this will do the similar set of installation steps. Okay, so while this is getting deployed, I think you're clear on adding the host, right? So I have to add a host to the cluster using this simple graphical option. So from the host menu, you can select that host and add. So this is almost similar to the normal installation step that we do. Now let me add a new host and we can build Ansible over there, and maybe we will use that for deploying the cluster going forward. What is the instance ID? So same VM we can use. I mean the same set of VM. Use this one, but here I need very minimal. Like I'm just choosing T2 small, 2 gig RAM and 1 CPU, and the same storage. I just need 40 gig. That's it. Just a tag. Then use the same HTTP training. Launch. Okay. See, Ansible. I think you guys know it, or everyone is completely new to this one.
Completely new.
Yeah, completely new.
Okay, okay, no problem, no worry. We are not going in depth of Ansible here, but we'll try to understand very basic thing. But you can build the remaining things on top of it, so you can invest some time later. But I'll just quickly give you a brief what is Ansible, okay, why it's using. See, uh, uh, eh, eh, yeah, can you please go on mute? Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
No problem, no problem. Yeah. See, actually, see, the Ansible is a configuration management tool. Okay, so we normally call configuration management tool. I'm not writing completely, so there are a lot of alternatives to Ansible. So that is Puppet, Chef. Okay, so these are the alternatives. Alternatives in the sense like we have a operating system, we have Windows available, Linux available, like that. So it do the same function, but in different way. Puppet is there and Chef is there. The simple thing, I'll tell you how this work. See, normally you have thousands of servers available. So how do you manage? So you may want to, okay, you have some DB server. So you have some web server. You have set of different server. So as an administrator, so how to manage this effectively? Say, for example, you may need to install certain packages, or you may need to uh, make some changes to some file, or something you need to do. So what we do earlier is just to go to that machine and do the things manually. But that is effective if you are having very less number of machines available. Say for example, 5 server, 10 server, or countable. But if you have hundreds of server, how do you manage? Or thousands of server, how do you manage? Say for example, you just need to upgrade one NFS package as part of your I mean the security vulnerability, or something you need to do. So you have to go to this each and every server manually, just to use yum upgrade or rpm hyphen upgrade command to upgrade that. But this is very time consuming and boring task, definitely. But so there are a few options to overcome this. So one is use the shell script based approach. But there are a lot of challenges with the shell scripting. You need to have this passwordless communication enabled, otherwise you have to pass the key. A lot of challenges are there, and also the writing the shell script a bit challenging. A lot of coding part you need to do. The next thing is use some configuration management tool to manage your infrastructure. See, in that case, you will have a management server. Say, for example, here we will have an Ansible server, and you are writing a simple YAML code here, and you will tell, okay, what are the changes you need to make. Say, for example, make these changes to DB server, make this much changes to uh, web server, make these changes to this, etc. So you will write that into a file. Okay, this is just a logical representation. Like in the file, you are just using do this much task for this machine and all. Then what Ansible will do? Ansible will do this all these tasks for us by logging to this machine and do all those things. It's basically infrastructure as a code. So you are writing everything inside this Ansible script or Ansible template, and you will tell Ansible to do this task for you. Okay. So we have a Puppet and Chef available. And like I said, Ansible will have a server or management service available, which will be running on host. The main advantage with Ansible is, so definitely you may be thinking how this communication happens from this to all the server. So if you are using Puppet, there will be a master and agent process running on all the host. And similarly for chef also, there will be a master service and agent service running on all the hosts, like our Ambari master and agent works. But Ansible will work in an agentless way. Like there is no agent for Ansible, and it uses SSH service in backend and SSH service to communicate with all the hosts. Definitely, you need to pass this SSH key or SSH password in some of the configuration files. Okay. Uh, Basically, you can define everything in this Ansible master server, and you can code here, and you can execute that to update these changes. So Ansible makes our life much more easier by just coding from one server, and it will update that changes to all the hosts. But Puppet and Chef are alternative, but that is also used for the same purpose, but that work in different way. Like Puppet and Chef is having master and agent component, but Ansible is having only certain configurations available on the master. So there is no daemon or there is no master agent based communication. And installation of Ansible is really straightforward. Okay, so here you can see, so I've just opened one link from DigitalOcean. Just use EPL release. So EPL is stands for Extra Package for Enterprise Linux, and from that you can install this Ansible. We will do the same step. Just to get this IP address, open a new. I think let me open a new session. Change that password here. Ansible. Save it. Open. Okay. We will try this step first. Yum install Ansible. Sometimes we have available these packages. If this is not working, then you can use that install EPL release manually and try. So here I have a Ansible available. So this is from extras repository. So extra repository always available in my this package. I mean this AMI. Otherwise, you just need to install EPL release and do this command. So it's a simple RPM. I mean the simple RPM, and along with that, some dependencies are there, and that's it about the installation. Just use yum install Ansible, and if you don't have a if yum install by default not working, you can just think about installing EPL release. And the next is you can write your host name, and you can write the password, all the details in the configuration file. Okay, I'll show you what is the configuration file. By default, if you go to etc, then there is a directory called Ansible. Here you can see the host file, and under host file you can write what are the hosts you need to control using this Ansible. Okay, I can just write the host name as masters. Okay, under masters I will write my IP address and short name and all other details. I can write like this. Okay, and I think yeah, what is this? And this one you can use, and I think somewhere I don't remember exactly. Let me just write this way: master 1, master 2, master 3. This is the short name I'm using, and Ansible underscore SSH underscore host. So what is the IP or host name or actual host name? So this can be any name, and we will write this one. Okay, and equal to what is the master 1 IP address, master 2 IP address, etc. that we will collect. See, this is the master 1. Master 2 and master 3, and okay, so if I just use Ansible -m ping all, definitely it will not work. The reason is we don't have a direct root based connection to all the hosts from this machine without password, right? Because the passwordless SSH is not enabled. So if you enable the passwordless SSH from this host to all the hosts, so definitely that will work. Okay, that is a one way, but in a real scenario, you won't get that option. So now Ansible, okay, so there are multiple ways you can use. So this is like a command based option, like we are just writing everything in the command itself. So here -m you can see that is called a module, and uh, and all means all the servers. We are just applying all the servers and checking the ping. So ping will check whether the host we have written here, okay, whatever the host we have written here, uh, uncommented section. So all the host means we have a master subsection. So it will try to check all the hosts here. So you may have a different DB server or workers, etc. Then if you just add the workers also, it will try to check all the hosts. Okay, but that is not reachable. So the next is I think so we have another option, servers. Okay, I think this one also I have to just refresh this thing. I just I don't know, this is semicolon or comma. Let me try with oh, okay, I think that is incorrect. One second. Okay, I think we will just use this option. Okay, I think it's not a colon. Okay, so this time uh, this is not working because it's not able to connect because the passwordless SSH is not enabled. Also, we have to uh, pass that key file, whatever the PEM file we have. So we have to place it here and use that. Okay, so don't confuse here much. I'll show you that in detail. Okay, basically, uh, in Ansible we have got a few things. One file we call that is inventory, where we will write all the configurations like what are the hosts we are going to monitor or we are going to control with the Ansible. And in inventory file, we will list down the host name or IP address and which user we are used for doing SSH and its a password if required, all those information. Okay, that is the inventory file. The next part is the module. So module is the one which is built in and available. So we will use that module to do our job. So for example, ping is the one of the module. So which is pre-built, and there are modules for available for package installation or package management, then file management. So for each and everything, there will be module available. Some modules already available as part of installation. I mean default installation. Some we may need to add. So first understand Ansible has got two part. One is an inventory file. Inventory file is nothing similar to the etc host file that contain the host details like IP address, then which user we use, what is the password we use, if the key base, what is the key we use. Then the module is the one that we use in Ansible, and with the help of module only we use that. And we will just return the details like Ansible SSH host, what is the host corresponding to this short name, and to which user we are using. But we have to write the password or key. Okay, see, let's just try SSH key in Ansible inventory. Okay, Ansible SSH private key underscore file. So this is the path I need to use. And okay, this is the variable I need to use. See, for this host, what is the key file? And I need to place my key file somewhere in the safe location. Okay, where I have the key file. Uh, that file I have to copy, that PEM file which I used. So what I use here is, let me use a WinSCP to transfer that file to this particular host. So what is the host IP address? So worker for public IP address is this one, and I use ec2-user, and the password I don't have, so I will be using I'll go to the advanced, and authentication is the key based. Where is the key? Go to the private keys. So here I use ppk. Just log in. I don't know why. ec2-user authentication, HTTP admin.
Is EC2 user or CentOS user?
Oh, okay. I think it's a CentOS maybe. Password. Let's go to the authentication. Yes, it's a CentOS user only. Okay, I have to upload the file. So wherever my key file is there, just go ahead and so go to the desktop, private keys. I need the PEM file, not PPK. Just kept inside the CentOS directory, and here just copy that maybe /home CentOS. Which machine I copied? 13. It's not listing. Oh, sorry. I just selected the worker for the host name is Ansible, right? This one I need to log in and try. Okay, so I connected to that user and going to the desktop and private key. So PEM file I just copy to flash home, and I just need to change chmod 600 to /home CentOS and HTTP admin. So this is the file, and just open the host, and here instead of EC2 user I need to use CentOS, because that is a user which I use for connecting, right? And key file location is this one. Okay, now we are good. If you just use Ansible -m ping all, yes. Oh, host key verification failed. Okay, the reason is when it try to connect a host key, I think there is an option to disable. Okay, so that also we can specify somewhere here. So as host underscore key checking equal to false. This one okay, Ansible, under Ansible config, there is a config file, etc Ansible config, where we will add that host key checking disable. So this is the Ansible config file. Yeah, so this one I can just check. And also I think SSH key location also I can specify inside the CFG file, but I'm just added here. Now we will see. Yes, this is all success. I think you are a bit confused here what I have done. Let me just recollect the steps we have done. See, the first thing we did is we just installed Ansible on one host. Okay, so installation is the one part that we have done, like using install command. The next is we have a file called inventory. Inventory is nothing but it's a configuration file with host or host groups. Okay, so we will define the host and host group plus some other configuration also. I mean, like, so what is the SSH user we are using? So what is the authentication mechanism like SSH we are using, and what is the SSH user, and what is the SSH key we are using? Otherwise, we can pass a SSH password, and for each host we can mention that. So that is the inventory file we used, and the inventory file looks like a etc host file, but only the difference is we will just define the subsection. So we can just call masters all means in the Ansible. And first of all, understand we don't use the Ansible this way, but this is just for a testing we use in the this mod, but we will use the file based option. See, here I use the masters. So instead of that, I can use other hosts also I can add. What I'm going to add here is just masters and workers. What I'm going to do here is just to copy worker one. I think I can copy and edit, so that will be easy for me. So just change these two. And this host IP also I may need to change. So worker one is 81. Just add that detail here. Worker 2, worker 3. I think it's a worker 4. Yeah.
Under workers last worker.
Okay. See, now if I just use masters, then it will do for masters alone. If I use workers, it will do for worker, all the workers. And if I just use for all means, it will do the ping test for all the host. So that is the inventory file. Inventory file by default, the default you will have an inventory file that will be under etc host and sorry, under etc Ansible host, where you define the names, I mean group, and you can write the options like what is the authentication mechanism it's using, and what is the IP address, and if it's using non-custom use, otherwise it will use a root, and what is the key file you are using. All this information you can store here, and this is the group master 1 and master 2, and so you can write an Ansible playbook. So that is something like a YAML file, or just in this way. Okay, so but this is not the recommended way. This will just do at the command line, and we mainly use it for testing purpose. So for example, if I just use install httpd, just we will just sample playbook. I'll show you what is a playbook. It's nothing but a file where we define the task, and also we can define which user to execute, and what are the options we need to use. I think it will be a bit confusing here for you, and we will write a file like this. This is called a YAML file, and we will use Ansible Playbook. There is another command to do execute this one. I just understand, okay, this is the way to do the installation and testing. So now we can just go to some other location and write some file like Ansible, sorry, underscore. I'm just using any which package I can use, NFS. I am okay. So let's just use a VSFTPD package installation, and let me just create a YAML file. Any file, any name you can just use, test.yaml. So vim is not there. Then what I have to use first is I have to tell on which host or host group I'm going to do this. If you're not able to grasp this at the first time, so not an issue. So I'll show you that in detail. Host, then which host. So for example, I can write workers here, or all also I can write, and indentation is very important, and under this, so we will write everything under this one. So I can just write task. Okay, sorry, I think under task I have to write, don't use the tab. So if you use the tab, definitely it won't work. Then I can just write what are the name, task name, then the name will show VSFTPD. Then we use which option we use, which module. So this is the module M. Okay, package package equal to latest. State equal to latest. I think you can just use VSFTPD. VSFTPD, right? Then what you have to do is Ansible -playbook this file. You can see oops, you need to be root to perform this one. Okay, so that means this is failed, and we just need to mention, okay, what we need to do here is like which user you need to use, and become true. I think it will just sudo switch to root user. You will just write that here. See, here you can see on all the workers this is installed now. Okay, now if I just go to the worker one, just check RPM. No, this is not responding. Just use a duplicate session and see. See, this package is there, and if you want to remove that package, you can just mention that here. Sorry. Yeah, you can just mention that here in this file. Like I think this is latest. I think remove or something. We can just use pkg module in Ansible and just use. Okay, so not pkg, sorry, m module in Ansible, and you can see there are options. Name is there, state is there, absent is there, removed is there. I think if absent means present, install latest, remove. Okay, if I just use the remove option here in this file, so it always ensures that this is removed. If I execute this again, absent, present, installed, removed. Okay, it's not a remove, removed. This is done, right? Now if I just check here, rpm-q, so this won't be there. So this way we can manage. Okay, this is just a quick explanation. I don't know whether you are able to understand this thing. First, understand there are multiple ways. One is first option is inventory file. Just update your host and other details over there. Second is just from the command line you can make use of Ansible. And the next option, or the important option, is Ansible Playbook, where we will write certain files and use Ansible Playbook followed by that file to execute the content here. So rather than writing in the terminal, so here we will write as a YAML file and use that Ansible Playbook to execute this one. Or else, no, not worry. I will explain tomorrow also how this work. Did you get a brief understanding how this works?
Yes, it is.
Okay. See, just understand. In this tool, you can just do the installation. Then the next part is the testing. And Ansible Playbook and Ansible Galaxy, there are a lot more options available where we do the professional coding in Ansible Galaxy, where you will have a separate inventory file for your own. So you will have it your own custody, so that file. But here we just use etc Ansible configuration file that I'll show you along with this when I do some sample testing. Otherwise, just understand, install the Ansible, then we have the configuration file under etc. Then we can use Ansible in this way, Ansible-m, and to write the module name and what are the options that is in the command line, or else you can write into a file called YAML. So initially, you need a lot of practice to write this file because the syntax is very important. Like I said, a tab, you should not type the tab. So you need to be space, and the alignment of this one should be uniform. There are a lot of things you need to learn on this, but this require a lot of practice only. With the practice, you can write all those things. If you are keep doing these things, you should be quickly do the things here. Like you should be able to. So here you can see I used a functionality called a module. See, under task, this is the one of the tasks. You can have multiple tasks, and this entire thing is called a play. Okay, under one play we will have multiple tasks, and we have variable section and all. Again, this is a not completely standard way. For just a demonstration purpose, I just added very minimal thing. And under task we are calling a module. So M is a module available, so you can use M module and see what are the options available. Similarly, multiple modules are available for managing Azure or managing EC2. We have module for other configuration changes. We have modules. A lot of modules are there. First is understand the thing, just familiarize the module. That's it about the Ansible. But you need a lot of hands-on exercise to understand this thing. Now we will go back to our adding node addition. This is completed. Yeah, now the node is added. So you can see what are the components we have added here. So all this is listing. And you can see HDFS client, but the master components are not added. So we can add this components to that host from go to the host and choose that host. And here you can see, oh, okay, data node is there. And if you want to add any other components, you can add it here. So if I just want one more zookeeper, just add that here and do that. Okay. So adding host is very easy. And similarly, we should be able to know how to decommission. So we call the term commission for adding the host, decommission for taking the host. So maybe decommission I will show you tomorrow. So any questions here?
No questions. I couldn't follow you completely. If you can upload the video, that should be really appreciated.
Yeah, sure. The Ansible thing, don't worry. Okay, because it's an entirely new thing for you, and if you are hearing the first time, you won't be able to understand completely. But I will show you step by step. Okay, so how this works. At least
Okay.
understand what is Ansible, how we can use. Okay,
Okay.
and
We
how to
understand.
install basic, and then gradually, if you practice, then it will come. Okay,
Okay.
automatically it will come. It's very interesting also. You can develop that skill, but the only thing is just you need some hands-on practice how to
Okay.
do this thing. Yeah, that we will do it along with, and I will show you how to deploy the cluster using the Ansible also. Okay, so we can wind up for now, and I'll upload the video in the same way. I
Yeah,
will
please don't
share
forget to
it.
share the video. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sujesh,
All
is
right.
there any
Yeah.
possible way for video 3 or any notes?
I will check that video. I was not able to recover, so I'll just check. Is there any other thing I can do for that? Let me check that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Good day. Bye.
Bye.